Marsha Clark, her closing case against O.J. Simpson, and a TV close-up ends television coverage for a while at least. Major progress on the peace process for Bosnia. The president is happy to take credit. NBC News in-depth, the great Medicare debate. Is managed care the answer? And a disturbing test: do airliners get in trouble when they follow each other for landings?
From NBC News, this is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw. Reporting tonight from Los Angeles.
Good evening from Los Angeles. In a small courtroom on the 9th floor of that building behind me, they're now in a dinner recess, but Marsha Clark has been making her last best case against O.J. Simpson, and the world has been watching for most of the day. However, this afternoon, Judge Lancito, angered by a close-up, did kill television coverage for a time, but then it was switched back on. Nonetheless, the real audience here is the jury, and so Clark continued her methodical, matter-of-fact argument. She raised the Furman issue, Cato Kalin, common sense, the opportunity, gloves, and lots more. The jury of 2 men, 10 women, 9 of them African-American, most of them listening intently. NBC's David Bloom now takes us through this day of great expectations that played out in a low-key way.
In a tense courtroom before a somber jury, prosecutor Marsha Clark implored the Simpson jury to look beyond a racist cop, to look through a defense smokescreen, and to see what she called a core truth, that O.J. Simpson is a cold-blooded killer. Clark began by confronting the nightmare of former Detective Mark Furman.
Did he lie when he testified here in this courtroom, saying that he did not use racial epithets in the last 10 years? Yes. Is he a racist? Yes. In fact, do we wish there were no such person on the planet? Yes.
But Clark argued that Simpson's lawyers were trying to lead the jury down false roads, paved, she said, with inflammatory distractions.
On the other hand, although it would be completely understandable if you were to feel angry and disgusted with Mark Furman, as we all are, still it would be wrong to find the defendant guilty, not guilty, just because of that anger and disgust.
With Nicole Brown Simpson's mother and Ronald Goldman's father and sister looking on, Clark focused quickly on the timing of the murders. A large prosecution billboard asking, where was the defendant? Clark's tone was low-key, almost casual, patiently taking jurors through the prosecution's chronology, reminding them of the many neighbors who heard Nicole Brown Simpson's dog barking around 10:15 or 10:20 on the night of the murders, and of the limousine driver who showed up at Simpson's estate at 10:22 that night, saw no Bronco, got no answer, until a half hour later, when a large black man in dark clothing slipped through the front door, the lights came on, and Simpson got on the intercom to say he'd overslept and was just getting out of the shower. Why, asked the prosecutor, did Simpson lie?
Because he hadn't been at home. Because he'd just come back from Bundy.
Judge Ito briefly cut off television coverage of Clark's closing arguments when the camera operator showed a close-up of Simpson taking notes. But an hour later, the camera was back on, and Clark was ticking off the physical evidence. A trail of blood leading from the crime scene into Simpson's bedroom. What looks to be Simpson's hair and fibers from his Bronco inside the cap at Ronald Goldman's feet. Blood from Simpson and both victims in the Bronco. And the bloody glove found at Simpson's estate. And the prosecutor asked, why was Simpson laughing when he tried on the bloody gloves last June and they did not appear to fit?
Is that the attitude you expect, the laughing and the mugging? Putting on the bloody gloves that were used to murder the mother of your children?
Later, Simpson appeared near tears as Clark described the final moments of his ex-wife's life.
These are murders that are really slaughters, that are personal.
Jury dinner break continues for about another half an hour, and then Marsha Clark will resume for 2 more hours what's been a plotting, but prosecutors hope persuasive, accounting of the killings. Tom?
Thanks very much, David. How the jury reacts to Marsha Clark is the key here, of course. Chris Darden will also be assisting her. We'll probably hear from him tomorrow. But right now, let's hear from our experts, Ira Reiner here in Los Angeles and Jack Ford who's in the criminal courts building just behind me. Ira, it was a methodical beginning for Marcia Clark, but she did accumulate a lot of evidence and put it before that jury before the end of the day.
Well, perhaps, Tom, but I think that your brief summary a moment ago was a lot more effective than her spending several hours jumping from topic to topic. She was visibly tired. It showed in her face. It showed in her body language. It also showed in her voice. And her argument was unfocused. She jumped from topic to topic without any seeming plan. I'm a fan of Marcia Clark. I think she's an excellent advocate. She is usually tough, she is passionate, and she is logical. And today she was neither of those things. She was just simply tired and disjointed. I think overall she did a very poor job today.
And Jack Ford, it's always hard to read the minds of the jurors as they look at someone like Marcia Clark as she begins what is eventually the argument of her life.
It is, Tom. You know, you were in the courtroom today. You had a chance to look at those jurors. I'm sure you've seen what all of us have seen during the course of the trial here, and that is these jurors are very difficult to read. They seem to focus on everything very carefully. They pay attention, but they don't emote at all. There's no way for you to look at them and say, are they grabbing into this argument or are they rejecting this argument? The prosecution hopes that throughout the course of the next 2 days or so that they'll make enough persuasive arguments, enough logical arguments to overwhelm what I think will be a very emotional appeal to the jury by defense attorney Johnny Cochran.
Johnny Cochran says he'll only take about 1 day, so we expect him to do what? Engage primarily in the dramatics and the emotion? Jack?
Well, the first thing is that no one has ever taken the amount of time they said they would take in this trial, Tom. But I think what you do is you'll see him emotionally try to raise a whole lot of questions here to challenge everything before these jurors.
All right, thanks, Jack and Ira. When we come back, NBC News in Depth tonight, Medicare reform. We'll have more answers to your questions tonight. Managed care and HMOs, are they your solution?
I had my implant, and it didn't cost me not 1 red cent.
Or will your health care suffer? Also tonight, a most unusual flight test trying to solve the mystery of a deadly crash.
Come on, guys.
Hey, Fran. How are you? Coffee and a jelly fill.
Complete bran flakes. What's he stares like I can't make a change?
What's with you?
I look like this when I joined the force?
Well, no.
I eat junk all day. I come home, I say I'm going to work out. I never do. I got to do something.
Thousands of people have started turning their lives around with 4 little words. Kellogg's Complete Bran Flakes.
Hey, Fran. Can I make a switch here?
I feel like I'm married to you.
Kellogg's Complete Bran Flakes. It's a start.
Every time you make a long-distance call, AT&T sends out a signal to check the quality of the line, automatically routing around trouble before you've even finished dialing. Because in business, it all comes back to getting your calls through. Guaranteed network reliability at a competitive price.
Linda, I'd like to bounce an idea off.
Only from AT&T for the life of your business.
Now, today's other big developments. This is another ordeal, one of much greater consequence than the Simpson case, finally showing some signs of approaching an end, an agreement by the enemies in Bosnia that could signal a willingness to coexist. This is not yet a peace plan or even a ceasefire, but President Clinton is making the most of it. NBC's Brian Williams is at the White House tonight.
The president emerged not to announce the end of the war, but to talk about what Bosnia will look like once the smoke clears.
I'm pleased to announce another positive step on the path to peace in Bosnia.
He was talking about the marathon talks in New York at the United Nations, where the following agreement has been struck. In a land to be divided 49% Serb, 51% Muslim Croat, the Constitution for post-war Bosnia will provide for a presidency, a parliament, a court system, and direct elections.
And they further provide that a central government will be responsible for conducting Bosnia's foreign policy, as well as other key functions that are still being discussed.
The agreement calls for the new Bosnian state to be a single entity, though made up of two parts. The president stressed today's deal must go through before a ceasefire can come about. The fighting continued today, and it will likely continue for some time. The good news, a prisoner exchange between the Bosnian government and the Bosnian Serbs, the first in 3 months, and a show of goodwill before the talks in New York. But as the president's point man pointed out, there can't be much cause for celebration while the fighting goes on.
We've been working through around the clock, but we can't be satisfied. The war is still going on.
Though the president sends his team back to the region on Thursday, the White House wanted to get this good news out today, but it may not be good enough for some in Congress, where already tonight Senator Bob Dole was complaining about not being consulted. Brian Williams, NBC News, the White House.
And on the Japanese island of Okinawa, thousands protesting against the big U.S. military presence there, sparked by the alleged rape of a local schoolgirl just 12 years old by 2 U.S. Marines and a sailor, and by the refusal of the U.S. to turn the 3 over to Japanese police until formal charges are filed. Back in this country on Wall Street today, the Dow was down in very heavy trading. The NASDAQ was down as well. When we come back, NBC News in depth tonight, Medicare reform, some possible solutions. A medical savings account. Is it good sense or a bad idea?
What's amazing about global communication? At GTE, we think it should make it easier for people to get together, which is why we brought the first cellular phone system to Cordoba, Argentina, and why we operate the local phone system in the Venezuelan village of Grico, which Mercedes Torres finds pretty amazing. Why? Because she doesn't feel a million miles away from her grandfather anymore. Amazing.
Powerful pain relief and so much more. That's the power of Bear.
This is big, huge.
It's Red Lobster's Lobster Fest.
It's our biggest ever.
Feast on our biggest lobster, the succulent rocktail.
Oh. People, can you see it?
Dig into our sweetest maintails.
Lobsters everywhere.
For a fresh new taste, there's roasted lobster and garlic shrimp, lobster appetizers, and much more.
I told you it's big.
Lobster Fest.
Lobsters everywhere. We're expecting you. Hurry to Red Lobster tonight.
NBC News in depth tonight. We have more on the big debate over Medicare reform. Everyone's got questions and concerns. So tonight, some answers on 2 fronts, including how HMOs might figure in your future. As for the debate, it's now underway in earnest now in the Senate, where the Finance Committee went to work today on the bill that is supposed to dramatically slow the growth of Medicare, saving $270 billion over 7 years. $47 billion of that savings would come from encouraging seniors to switch to managed care plans or HMOs. Is that a good idea? Or, as many seniors worry, will their quality of care suffer? NBC's Lisa Myers tonight with this in-depth report.
HMOs, health maintenance organizations.
Do you have your insurance card with you?
PPOs, preferred provider organizations. For most seniors, this alphabet soup of possible new choices under Medicare may sound confusing. But in Arizona, Royal and Irene White have had some of these choices for years.
For me, an HMO has been a godsend.
The savings was considerable.
70-year-old Irene has congestive heart problems, diabetes, and eye troubles. 74-year-old Royal wears a pacemaker, but is otherwise pretty healthy. 5 years ago, they were skeptical about HMOs, but decided to try one because even with Medicare, Irene's medical expenses were so bad, they would have had to mortgage their home to pay the bills. Now they pay $5 to $10 for each doctor visit and $6 for each prescription, and that's it. And both say there has been another unforeseen benefit.
I'm sure I'm much healthier today for being a member.
I go to the doctor more regular than I did before I had it.
In Arizona, 40% of eligible seniors now are in HMOs or some other managed care, compared with only 10% of seniors nationally. Senator Bill Frist, a heart transplant surgeon, says Republicans are counting on millions more seniors choosing that option to save $50 billion in Medicare costs over the next few years. But he emphasizes that no one will be forced to change.
As a physician and one who's taking care of thousands of Medicare patients, they want to be able to choose their physician. They want that ongoing relationship. That is very sacred to them, and we're not going to take that away.
However, the Senate Republican plan would provide rebates to encourage seniors to sign up for managed care and to shop around. Here's how it would work. Let's say each Medicare beneficiary is allotted $5,100 for the year and that a senior chose an HMO costing $4,500. The savings would be $600. Part of that would be kept by the government, but most of it, $450 in this case, would go to the senior, either to buy expanded medical benefits or in cash. To increase competition, Republicans would let doctors and hospitals form local networks to treat seniors. That also is designed to take some of the sting out of the Republican plan, which sharply limits regular fees doctors and hospitals can charge Medicare.
We'll be able to care for them in a much more cost-effective fashion over the long haul.
In Arizona, there have been some complaints, long waits for appointments, patients unhappy with choices of doctors. But Royal White is so pleased he wrote a rap song.
5 years now we've been in the plan. We think it's one of the best in the land.
And many experts say that this is one area where saving money actually could mean better care for seniors. Lisa Myers, NBC News, the Capitol.
Another part of the Republican plans to reform Medicare is something called a medical savings account, an MSA. As NBC's chief financial correspondent Mike Jensen tells us tonight, this is an idea that has already taken root around the country as we continue our in-depth report.
Nicholas Fargo, director of the Jersey City Fire Department, signed up for a medical savings account, an MSA, in March. His family has been healthy, so he expects to get $1,000 in cash from the city at the end of the year to spend on whatever he wants.
Hopefully, without too many bills to pay, I can take a small vacation with the family.
Here's how his MSA works. His employer, Jersey City, gives him $1,800 a year for medical bills. If his total medical expenses for the year are less than $1,800, he keeps the difference. If they're more, he's on the hook for the next $200 in bills. But he gets a medical insurance policy that pays for any charges above that. This is a medical plan that began with companies. About 1,000 of them now have some version of an MSA. Then it expanded to cities and counties. The first of those was here in Jersey City. 97 employees signed up, and the savings this year to the city will be $21,000. Can it work on a larger scale for Medicare?
If Medicare beneficiaries control more of their own health care dollars, they will consume wisely and prudently, and they will save money for the whole system.
Critics say the plan is best for the healthy and wealthy. But Eleanor Gibney, Jersey City's recreation director, disagrees. She's run up $5,000 in medical bills this year, mostly for infertility treatments.
Under the old plan, it would have cost me about $1,000 for this treatment for my husband and I combined. Under this plan, we've spent $200 out of pocket. Everything else has been covered 100%.
Not all MSAs are that generous. Some have higher deductibles. But many experts say giving you the choice of how to spend your insurance money is a good way to cut costs and preserve Medicare for the next generation. Mike Jensen, NBC News, Jersey City.
And a footnote tonight, as the Senate works on its Medicare reform bill, the House is falling behind. It was scheduled to start work on the Republican plan tomorrow, but that's been pushed back until Friday at the earliest. We will keep you posted. And when we come back, on the trail of a mystery, trying to recreate a deadly plane crash, scary testing in the skies today.
Where you been?
We want to eat.
Oh, I was over there talking to old Charlie.
Okay?
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Gentlemen, start your pitchers.
Kellogg's Rice Krispies in stereo.
Snap, crackle, and pop, plus that crisp toasted taste.
Now for the best part. make him disappear.
What other cereal sounds so good?
Raymond, you look constipated.
Here we go.
You should take Phillips Milk of Magnesia.
Says who?
For gentle overnight relief, doctors say they'd take Phillips Milk of Magnesia most. Raymond.
Told you.
Phillips. Doctors know best.
I remember when the only choice was aspirin. Next came Tylenol, but couldn't always handle all my tough headache pain. And now there's Aleve. But if pain comes back once you've taken it, you could be in pain hours before you can take more. No thanks. For me, the best choice is Advil. I wouldn't use anything else.
Advil contains the #1 doctor-prescribed pain reliever in its class in non-prescription strength.
Nothing is proven to work better or last longer than Advil. Nothing.
Advanced medicine for pain.
Did you get the page?
He's always asking me that.
Page him again.
I'll page him again.
Did you get the page?
Ooh, deja vu.
Page him again.
I'll page him again.
Did you get the page?
That's me, Wanda the executive mind reader.
Page him again.
I'll page him again.
To be sure your page gets through, get SkyTel Two-Way, the new paging system with guaranteed delivery. Can your pager do that?
Did you get the page?
Ask me again and I'll kill you.
For SkyTel Two-Way paging, call 1-800-SkyTel.
Pam, look. Phillips has gel caps. Gentle overnight relief in a little gel cap. This is just the thing for your constipation, honey.
Even has a stool softener, huh, Brenda?
Phillips has gel caps.
A heated argument. She said she wanted to die. He gave her a loaded gun. Is he to blame for her death? Plus, OJ, the latest on the final arguments. Dateline tonight.
Now, a deadly airliner mystery. More than a year afterward, there is still no explanation for the crash of a U.S. Air 737 near Pittsburgh that killed 132 people. But investigators now are looking at one possibility. Deadly air currents caused by a plane flying 4 miles ahead. NBC's Robert Hager has more tonight.
To find out more about the role wake turbulence may have played in the Pittsburgh crash, investigators prepared for a week of tests by outfitting a government-owned 727 with smoke generators to mark the powerful and sometimes dangerous phenomenon. With no other ready explanation for that crash, they want to know if the U.S. airplane's deadly dive may have been set off initially by the wake of a 727 flying 4 miles ahead. So today, the plane with the smoke generators was sent aloft just ahead of a U.S. Air 737, heavily instrumented for the test. These pictures were made from a third plane, and what they show is that the 737 was knocked around dramatically as it purposely flew into the wake from a variety of angles. As expected, these pilots, who knew what was coming and could see the smoke-marked wake, were able to control the plane. But for added safety, the tests were conducted 18,000 feet high to provide extra room to regain control if anything had gone wrong. But what investigators now want to know as the testing continues is whether such a wake is strong enough to cause pilots to lose control or make a mistake if they were taken by surprise. Investigators have known about the dangers of wake turbulence for years, but previously it was always thought to have been a problem only for small planes, and then only if they were following closely behind big ones. In a government test 8 years ago, a helicopter wake nearly caused this small test plane to crash. Fortunately, the experiment took place at 5,000 feet, so the pilot of the small plane had time to recover control, but only after a frightening dive. Others have been less fortunate. In a dozen years, 27 people have been killed after encountering wake turbulence. Now, investigators hope these tests not only shed some light on the Pittsburgh crash, but help them assess the danger of wake turbulence to other large planes as well. Robert Hager, NBC News, Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Time now for NBC News Online. House pages, those ambitious teenagers who spend 1 year working for members of Congress. But now some on Capitol Hill are questioning this year's selection process. That's because out of 64 new pages who began work this month, 63 are white. In past classes, an average of 15 to 20 pages have been members of minorities. It's been 5 months now since the bombing of the federal building in Oklahoma City. Today, Oklahoma Governor Frank Keating left on a 3-day national tour to personally thank the hundreds of rescuers who came to help after the bombing. I'll be back with more from Los Angeles. The trial, the courtroom, the television camera, the theater of it all.
In
In the spirit of Italian generosity, the Olive Garden offers you the never-ending pasta bowl, just $6.95. Choose your favorite from our special Olive Garden pasta menu. Then mangia. Enjoy as many free refills as you want. Choose from spaghetti and meat sauce, creamy fettuccine Alfredo, and many more delicious never-ending Olive Garden favorites with free soup or salad and breadsticks. The never-ending pasta bowl, only $6.95 for a short time at the Olive Garden, where generosity is a way of life.
Fibercon or Metamucil? Both give you the same predictable regularity, the same natural action of fiber. So what makes Fibercon different? With Fibercon, I get my fiber in 2 caplets. Fibercon, fiber regularity that's easier to take.
Last week we thought we had a 24-hour bug.
But we may have had a mild case of salmonella poisoning.
They came from bacteria, which was spread around our kitchen to other foods.
Now we use Lysol antibacterial kitchen cleaner. As it cleans, it kills the bacteria and keeps them from spreading.
Which may help keep us from getting sick. Get Lysol antibacterial kitchen cleaner.
Lysol spray use number 141. That fishy smell you can't cast off. Lysol disinfectant spray. There's nothing this can't do.
It's a great time to be silver because you're over 50 and you haven't lost your edge. Now there's a Centrum made just for you. Centrum Silver for your changing nutritional needs. Centrum Silver. It's a great time to be silver.
Introducing an Alka-Seltzer that goes where no Alka-Seltzer has gone before. New Alka-Seltzer caplets. Now you can get the fast, effective relief you need in an easy-to-swallow caplet. So the next time you get acid indigestion or heartburn with headache, Alka-Seltzer caplets provide a very convenient solution. Anytime, anywhere. New Alka-Seltzer caplets, a great new way to feel better fast.
Tomorrow on Today, is Marcia Clark making her case? Expert analysis of closing arguments at the Simpson trial. Join us tomorrow and see what a difference today makes.
The O.J. Simpson trial has been underway now since January. And even though we have all seen the big moments and small on television, going into that courtroom itself is like entering a well-ordered and separate small world. For me, it was the first time seeing the jury. And today the jurors were all dressed up, more so than usual, according to courtroom regulars. Most kept their eyes riveted on Marcia Clark, but a few looked around a good deal and didn't always look at the displays on the evidence screens that Marcia Clark was referring to. Simpson's mother was wheeled in. She's confined to a wheelchair by her granddaughter, Arnell, and she sat not 10 feet away from Ron Goldman's father. Simpson had a smile and words for his family as he arrived, and Johnny Cochran roams that small space like a man in charge of his world. Chris Darden doesn't say much, and he's wearing the lapel ribbon of the Los Angeles AIDS Project. And it's also hard to know which side of the bar will turn out the most books first, the lawyers and judge, or the press and authors in the public seating section. Finally, and this is not a political statement, the television camera is so inconspicuous, the lighting is so muted, not even those of us who do this are aware of its presence. That's the theater of the courtroom, but the outcome, well, it will depend on theater, but much, much more. That's Nightly News for this Tuesday night from Los Angeles. I'm Tom Brokaw. More on the closing arguments and a Dateline exclusive tonight on NBC. Friends of Nicole Brown Simpson say why they wanted to be on the witness stand. That's at 10.